We should start with the problem.
In our school, we have 67 cases of hepatitis C because of the water.
18% of women engaged in self-harm, and 6% of men said the same.
Drunk driving has plagued
real problems, such as women's safety, waste removal, and childhood obesity.
¿Qué problema resuelven?
We see a lot of problems in our town.
We don't have boxes for garbage.
Who knows better the problems in the community than the people? A business and technology competition, you have the ability to practice your English, learn some new things.
My computer science teacher sent out this huge email to all the students about Technovation.
Welcome to the Technovation World Pitch Competition.
But you need to find the girls to do it. But most of the girls were like, no, computer science is for boys.
Only 7% of tech startups are led by women.
And now I feel like I look everywhere and I'm like, that's a problem, and then this app could solve it.
This is the next social media button.
We are sophomores and we're all 15 years old.
Join us to promote a cleaner, greener, and safer environment.
We want to make it perfect.
an actual problem and finding a way to solve it. Like, that is a really good feeling.
Okay, who's ready for a revolution after that trailer? First of all, I want to thank PFL for putting this on. I want to thank my fellow sponsors, and I want to thank all the attendees for coming. I think this has been an awesome day. I'm happy to be the last speaker before the panel because they're the ones before the alcohol, so being second to last is good. And I was told we're running ahead of schedule, so I get an hour and a half. So my name's Devin Holmes. Amongst a lot of things, including being the founder of the Big Sky Code Academy, I'm a stereotype. I'm a white, male, middle-aged engineer, slightly overweight from too many donuts, working in technology. There's a lot of people like me in this sector. But I'm also the father of a 2-year-old daughter. And when I went to school for engineering, my freshman year, I remember sitting in orientation, and the president of the student union's talking, and he of course, was an engineering school, about 90% engineers, was talking about how they were so proud that they improved the male to female ratio at this school that year. They said, this year, it's 4-to-1. And so I'm looking around going, that's awesome. There's like 4 girls to every guy. And I'm doing this and looking around, and I say to my roommate, I'm like, are the girls in a different orientation? Because my high school, I went to a very small high school. We actually were 3 girls to 2 guys. And so my perspective was that, hey, my university was going to be like that. Well, it wasn't. And so I have a passion for changing the sectors I'm in. I have a passion for diversity. And it is not just about gender diversity, though in Montana, we don't have great racial diversity, so we can focus on the thing that we can change, which is gender diversity in the tech sector. So today, I'm going to talk about playing the long game, and playing the long game from a talent development perspective. And so how many of you woke up this morning and thought, I'm going to make a decision today. I'm going to do something today that is going to have a 150-year implication on the people around me and the society that I live in? How many people? Raise a hand. I know I didn't. Well, maybe you woke up this morning and you thought, today I'm going to do something that will change people's lives in 5 years. Raise your hand, 5 years. 10, 20, we got a 10 over here, awesome. 50 years or more. We don't think about the things that we do in that time horizon. Partly because, like Matt said, there's this urgency versus importance. And so we have this urgency of what's right in front of me and what are the things I'm working on. Full disclosure, I'm a transplant to Montana, came here 18 months ago. For all the same reasons that people like me come here, I was married to a Montanan. We had a daughter. We wanted to live in a place where it's got a great lifestyle, a great place to raise a kid. And I thought, well, I can find something to do up there. And I came up here and I started talking to people and asking questions about the tech sector, because I'm a technologist. And I kept hearing this thing about talent shortage. We don't have enough people in the tech sector. We can't hire enough. We can't find them. We're not graduating enough. I thought, okay, well, maybe that's something I can work on. And so I joined a group of folks in Missoula, co-founded the first coding boot camp in Montana. We parted ways earlier this spring, and I started the Big Sky Code Academy. And part of the reason I started the academy was I wanted to focus on today's problem of training adults how to be web developer. That's an important thing. But I also wanted to focus on tomorrow's problem and tomorrow's problem. Because if we just tackle the stuff today, if we just train Montanans today, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, as folks who own technology businesses, as folks who own businesses that have technology components, and as Peter said on Monday, I'd like to find a business that doesn't have a technology component today, we're in real trouble. And so I started the academy, and we have this mission, and one of the things that's important to our mission, I'm going to talk a little bit about today, is also a focus on the nonprofit sector. I've been in the nonprofit sector for 7 years. I'm very passionate about it. I'm not going to rant and rave about how hard it is to fundraise. It's hard to fundraise. It's hard to get investment. It's hard to get people thinking about longevity in the nonprofit sector. But it is a huge sector that I think is largely overlooked by our technologists around the country. So Matt talked about what's important versus what's urgent. We have an urgency of building talent today. We have an urgency of hiring talent today. But similar to what Peter mentioned about Code 2040, we have an internal strategy that we call Montana 2050. And the reason is, like the rest of the US, we have a talent problem. That red line, if you look, the one that's the pretty steep slope there, that's our 60 and over talent pool. And that's growing fairly rapidly. And our purple line here on the bottom that remains relatively flat, that's our 19 and under. And so we are not replacing the individuals who are retiring out of the workforce fast enough as we move forward. And this goes out to 2060, and it's a pretty long prediction. We're going to stick at 2050 just because I like the sound of that. Code 2040 is pretty good too, so I'm going to sort of co-opt that. Thank you, Peter. And use that in my talk. But fundamentally, we have a graying of Montana. And if we are going to remain here and build businesses that have 10, 20, 50, 100-year lifespans, we need to start thinking about what Montana 2050 looks like. What's our talent pool look like? And so one of the reasons that I am a white, middle-aged, slightly overweight male engineer that's wearing a t-shirt with a logo and a hashtag, stereotype, is because we've adopted this internally, and it's a little bit of our marketing, is that we are great in Montana about marketing ourselves as a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to recreate and bike and ski, but we're not great at marketing ourselves as a wonderful place to code. And so what we want to get the message out, and one of the things that we want to do is talk about that. You can hike, you can camp, you can ski, you can hunt, you fish, and you can code in Montana, you can learn how to code, and you can get jobs how to code. And that's a little bit of our long-term vision about what we're doing. So let me tell you a story, a little history lesson here. Go back to the Civil War, which you're going to wonder, why is he talking about the Civil War? So I'm going to tell you a story about a young man by the name of Mose Triplett. And Mose Triplett was born in North Carolina in 1846. And at the young age of 16, there was a little bit of a conflict going on in the 1860s in the United States. He joined the Army. Being from North Carolina, he joined the Confederate Army. But being a smart guy, he realized after 2 years that was not where he wanted to be, so he deserted and went and joined the Union Army. And he served in the Union Army. He returned home, was discharged in 1865, and he died in 1938 at the age 92. So, why is this important? Well, in 1924, Mose married his second wife. His first wife had passed away. Mose was in his 70s. His second wife was in her 20s, which may seem shocking to us today. When I first read it, I was like, you gotta be kidding me, seriously. But in that time, when it was the Great Depression, Mose had a military pension, and his second wife was a nurse. And so it kind of made sense back then. And with his second wife, another shocking fact, Mose had 5 children, of only 2 of which survived childhood. And when Mose passed away, and when Moses' second wife passed away, Irene Triplet was the sole surviving heir to Moses' military pension. And as of this past March, when was the last time I checked on the statistics, Irene was still collecting a pension of $73.13 from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, why is this important about playing the long game when we think about talent development? Because Mose made a decision in the 1860s that resulted 150 years later in an action that we, as the US government and as Americans, continue to honor. And I can guarantee you, back then, there wasn't a single person in the Department of VA or whatever they were called that said, you know what, I bet in 2016, there's gonna be this woman collecting this pension earned by this private who served in the Union Army and deserted the Confederate Army. And so when I heard the story, and I see a fellow friend in the audience, I used to work in the veteran space, and I heard the story and it blew my mind. I was like, 150 years? Are we thinking about our businesses? Are we thinking about our policies and our politics and our industries in that time horizon? Or are we thinking about making next quarter's sales figures? Are we thinking about what our investors are going to say when we get to the end of the year or the stock market and we haven't hit our numbers? And it totally changed my perspective on thinking about what I do and what's that ripple effect and what's that impact. So some quick numbers. Montana's veteran population, I'm passionate about the veteran population. I did not serve. My father served before I was born. I worked in the space for 5 years. For all of you who are veterans, thank you for volunteering for service. Is that we have a declining, whoops, sorry, I hit the back button. We have also a declining veteran population in Montana. In 2013, we had about 100,000 veterans living in Montana. It's projected to be 75,000 in 2043. Why is this an important statistic? Because veterans are an amazing, amazing, amazing talent pool for today, for solving our problem today. And we have close to 250,000 veterans who leave the military every year. Some go back to their hometowns, like Mose Triplet did. Some do not. We have an opportunity to create a message of longevity in Montana. Let's bring those people here. Let's bring those people into our workforce. Let's train them. Let's hire them. Let's put that time horizon knowing that that person, their spouse and their children might be collecting a military pension. They might have a GI Bill opportunity. That funding might be there for 100 years. Let's start thinking about those people in that time horizon. Thank you. So one of the things we do, I'm not going to talk too much about the logistics of what we do, but we do have, through our Vets to Careers program, veteran scholarships. We're building partnerships so we can accept the GI Bill. From our perspective in training them how to be web developers, we want to bring them here because we know they like to bike, they like to ski, they like to hunt, they like to fish, and we're going to teach them how to code, and we're going to keep them here. So I'm going to transition to my next passion topic. How many people in technology have been to a conference and you look out in the audience and this is what you see? Yeah, come on, more of you, I know. And I'm glad to see that we have some great gender diversity in this audience. This is Montana, racial diversity. We don't have the numbers yet, but let's start working on that. So this is a conference. This actually, I think, is a Google conference, if I'm not mistaken. And we know, like anecdotally, we know that there's a problem. There was an O'Reilly survey this year. 8% of the respondents were female, 92 male. You can see the average salary and the median salaries. We know these are not new statistics. In case you wondered, like, oh, well, it's only O'Reilly, maybe they didn't get it right. Stack Overflow did the same thing. They did a survey, 55,000 people. Only 6% of those identified as women. Okay, so we need to increase the numbers. That's good. We need to change the culture. That's the more important thing. And the reason we need to change the culture is that there was a study done on GitHub. How many people know GitHub? It's a place where you put code, and then people can pull the code, and they can modify it and push it. It's a sort of repository. Think of it as a repository of code. So there was a study done, 4 million profiles on GitHub, approximately 3 million pull requests, which is when you say, can I pull your code down and do something with it? And as you can see, when a pull request was approved, if your profile was gender neutral, 71.8% of the time it was approved. But if you could be identified as a woman, 62.5%. This is a cultural bias. This isn't a numbers game. This is a cultural bias that we have in technology of thinking maybe women aren't as good coders, maybe women aren't as smart at doing this as men. You know? Then what we saw was after the code was modified and pushed back, women's code was merged back into the original code set at 78.6% of the time versus men's 74.6%. Women's code was identified as being better than men's code in this study. Now, there's a lot more. You should read the study. It's pretty long. There needs to be follow-on studies, but I thought this was a really interesting statistic. And so when Peter talked about those toxic processes, those biases, this is it. This isn't about numbers. It's about culture. It's about the mindset, right? It looks okay up there. It's a little small. But there was a College Board research report done, a 5-year analysis. High school girls who take AP computer science are 10 times more likely to major in computer science than if they don't. African American and Hispanic students who take AP computer science in high school are 7 to 8 times more likely to major in computer science than those who don't. The problem with this study is that by the time you get to high school, if you haven't instilled the mindset of an interest in technology, you're too late. The 14-year-old, you missed the boat. You're too late at that point because they've already self-identified, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at science. And so we need to tackle this problem much, much earlier. And I hope through what I'm going to show you next and what we're doing, that when my daughter goes to college in 16 years, if she chooses to go into an engineering school, that freshman year won't be 4 to 1. It'll be 3 to 2, 2 to 3, something more balanced. And so we piloted, we showed that film that you saw the trailer, Code Girl, earlier this year in Missoula and Bozeman. We piloted a program called Montana Code Girls. We had 7 teams in Missoula, ages 9 to 14, participate. 28 young women building mobile apps. 1 high school team of 3 girls, 14 years old, who built a mobile app to tackle teenage depression. They identified this topic as something that they wanted to do to tackle that social problem. We had middle schoolers tackling endangered wildlife, endangered critters. I was with Team Green about healthy living. We actually was almost like a pseudo Pokemon Go, but built by 10-year-olds, so it wasn't as advanced as that. Team Barkalots was awesome. They had a lot of fun about the lost pets. Who doesn't have a lost pet and worries about it? The team of high school girls, and I put up these 5 little screenshots here, that built this app and wrote an 18-page business plan and did a 4-page pitch video and did our 4-minute pitch video and did a 4-minute explanation video of their app and submitted to Technovation, did it in 8 weeks, and they had never coded before. And they built this app, this Mood Toast app, and you take a survey and it would rank you from lightly toasted to burnt toast. And right, it's a heavy topic, but kind of funny approach. They did all the icons, and then they would give you resources, where to go for help. Because teenage depression is a big issue in our community, is a big issue in this country. This fostered an interest at a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old. Yesterday at our mini boot camp at the Bozeman Public Library, we had an 8-year-old building a mobile app. We got to capture them earlier in the process, before they get to high school. So they do take AP computer science, and they are 10 times more likely to study it. One of the things we're doing, and you may have seen the banner out here, is we've kicked off a Sit With Me Montana campaign. This is a marketing campaign. It's aligned with a national campaign called sitwithme.org, and it's about getting people to sit in front of a banner on a red chair. You'll see the red chair. It's recycled Coca-Cola bottles. It's a pretty cool chair. And either take a picture with an inspirational quote or be videotaped on why it's important for young girls to pursue their interests in technology. You don't have to major in it. You don't have to study it. But if you have an interest in it, you should pursue it. Let's be role models for them, not only the white male, middle-aged, slightly overweight engineers, but all the women in the room. Please engage in the conversation so we can be role models for 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 14-year-olds. Let's get them into the technology sector. Let's get them interested. Let's get them engaged. That's how you're going to move the needle when that 10-year-old is 24 and says, I really want to work for PFL because they're the biggest company. They have 5,000 people in Montana. You got to start now. Because if you wait 10 years, you're too late. Okay, last one, nonprofits. How many people have ever donated money to a nonprofit? How many people have volunteered their time at a nonprofit? How many people would write a check to a nonprofit to build a technology solution that wouldn't see results for 3 years? Got a few hands. You're thinking strategically. How many people would invest in a startup that was going to build a technology solution that showed a hockey stick graph that in 2 to 3 years would be here, but they would lose money for 18 months if you had the investment dollars? I know there's one floating over there. Oh. We think about it differently. We think about it differently, and this is a passion of mine because I run a nonprofit. The Academy is a nonprofit. Montana Code Girls is a nonprofit, but I came from Silicon Valley. I know how the other side works. And for those of you that don't know the size of the nonprofit sector, in Montana alone, Montana's GDP in 2014 was about $45 million. 11% of our GDP in this state, and this number is actually true pretty much nationally, comes from the nonprofit sector. 11% of our GDP. Montana's nonprofits employ 47,000 people, plus an additional 16,000 volunteers for 63,000 plus people working in the sector, and they sit on approximately $13 billion in assets. And yet, what's true in Montana and what's true nationally is that U.S. charitable giving has remained constant at 2% of GDP every year for the last 40 years. We're not investing in this sector. We're not giving this sector the room and the runway to grow where they need to be to solve the social problems that they're tackling and generate that 11% of our GDP. Can you imagine if all of Montana's nonprofits today just closed their doors and said, we're going on strike, we're done? Who's going to pick up the tab? What do you think it would cost the state government and the federal government to do what all those nonprofits do at pennies on the dollar than what we would pay if we were paying it straight to the government? We need to invest in this sector. Now, being a technologist, I love technology. I think technology is an enabler for change. I think technology is a great solution. And so we want to invest in the nonprofit sector and help them improve their technology. I still remember, this was about 2011, maybe 2010, and I wonder if Les ran into some of these organizations too. I was talking to a gentleman who ran a veteran nonprofit, and I asked him about how does he connect to his local network. And he was a great guy, super passionate, doing great work. Vietnam era vet, probably in his 60s, right? Really excited. Let me show you. Come with me. And he takes me over to the corner room, and he shows me this table. And on this table are stacks of business cards and little labels. Counseling, housing, physical therapy. I'm sitting there going, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, no, like Joe's over here and Will's here and Bob's there, and he gets the card and like take it. Like, this is your referral network? He goes, this is how we manage it. Why? Because he wasn't a technologist. He didn't have the investment for technology. I kind of just wanted to take it and be like, can I at least put it into a spreadsheet for you? Like, just do something? Can I put it in Salesforce, which does a great job at supporting nonprofits? So what we're going to do, and we're launching this year, and this has been in my head for a couple, 3 years now, is we're launching a fellowship called Code for Philanthropy. And I want you to think about it as the same way you would think about Teach for America or AmeriCorps Vista or Peace Corps. We are going to allow individuals who are interested in serving their community to come to the academy. We're going to train them how to be developers in 12 weeks. And then we're going to spend 12 months, and they're going to work with nonprofits in their community, and they're going to build tech for them. We're just going to build the tech. If you need those business cards put into a CRM system, awesome. If you need a website, we can build that for you too. We're going to take this talent pool, we're going to give them the opportunity to invest in their community, which is going to improve all of our lives. And then when they come out, we're going to have them network with the employers in the community, and I want them to say, I just spent the last year of my life building this body of code. This is what I did. I can prove to you that I can be useful in your organization, but at the same time, I have changed my community for the next 20, 50, 150 years because I helped that nonprofit raise more money, connect with more people, help more people, network better, become better partners. Simply by building a technology tool that in a lot of cases, foundations and donors aren't great at funding because it's not a direct programmatic donation. If you want to know more, we love the constant contact. Text to sign up. Text Big Sky Code to 22828. I'm way over my time, but I think I'm okay. Thank you very much.